Welcome back. Today we're going to get started with lesson 4. And I think for the rest of the lessons, I will be cueing the whole time I'm talking for 2 reasons. One, it will give more equal access to those who cue, and it will give more exposure to cued speech to those who do not already cue. So let's get started. In lesson 4, we're going to review the things we learned in our last video, and we're going to learn the chin placement, which is the sounds oo, ah, eh, and then just like we had the ear sound, we have the air sound. Ear from the mouth and air from the chin. So we're going to cue some words for review now. And first we're going to cue words with the 5 hand shape. So the first word on the chart is meat. Meat. The second word is fee. The third word is tea. The fourth word is Murphy. The fifth word is fur. And the last word in the green section is turf. Now to move on to the blue section, which is hand shape 3, we have he, reef, see, her, and finally, sir. That is a review of all the sounds we learned so far, except for ear. So the ear words we can cue now are ear, fear, tear, hear, rear, and sear. Now to learn something new. The chin placement. So for this we have, like I said earlier, oo, ah, eh, and air. Now those might seem impossible to remember. So I use this sentence, too tall Ted. And then I add Ted's hair. Too tall Ted's hair. Because that sentence has all the vowels of this placement. Too tall Ted's hair are all at the chin. So use that sentence as a reference point for you to remember which sounds are at the chin. Too tall Ted's hair. To cue this, we're going to put our longest finger at the center of our chin, or for the 2 hand shapes that we know so far, for the 2 hand shapes that we know so far. And the cue notation is going to be C for chin. And notice how the sounds look on my mouth when I cue them. Ooh is round, just like Ah is open, and is flat. Ah, ooh. So that way you can tell the difference when you're cue reading. So now let's do some practice with all 3 sounds we just learned. moo, the number 2, 2 as in as well, who, suit, stew, and then finally, who taught me. Then for the aw sounds, we have raw, off, sauce, taught, tossed. That is another ed ending that sounds like a T. Tossed. Then me, saucy, free. The most common sentence. Then we have the final column, eh. We have hem. We're going to break that up into ha plus because remember, we use consonant vowel pairs when we're cueing. Hem. Set. Met. Test. Rest. Hast. He met me. He met me. So now that we can cue all those, let's get some practice with air. So we have air, fair, which those two have the same cues because the number 5 hand shape represents and t, but also no consonant sound before a vowel. So air, but also fair and mare and tear. Then we have stare, stare. Then we have stare another way, stare. Then rare. And then we have error. So you can see with error, I'm going from my chin to the mouth placement. If I were to break it up into air, you would go back out, but that's not how we talk. So when we cue it from the chin to the mouth. Error, error. And if it helps you to think of it like error, you can. Error, error. And finally, similar to error, we have Mary, Mary. Mare, E, but when we put it together, it's Mary. Now time for the first cue in. So you should be able to cue this sentence on your own. You can pause it here to look and try to cue it. And then we will cue it in 2 slides together. For lesson 5, we're going to review that cue in 1, and we're going to review all the consonants and vowels we've learned so far. Because at the start of learning, I know it can feel very overwhelming because it's so strange, the system and how we hear the sounds we've always said but never really paid attention to. So I know that it can feel overwhelming. So we're going to do a lesson of just reviewing. So the cue-in, I would cue it as meet me, for her, tea, sir, here. I'll do it again. Meet me, for her tea, sir, here. Now for some review. We have a lot of review we can do now. So we're going to start with the sounds E and er. So we have meet, fee, tea, he, reef, and C. Now for we have Murphy, fur, turf, her, and sir. Now for ear, we have mirror, just like with Mary and error, we're going to cue mirror like that. We're not going to cue it as mirror. And some of you may even say the word mirror as just mirror. Some people say that depending on their dialect of American English. So then we have fear, tear, here, rear, and sear. Now for oo, we have moo, foo, to, who, roo, and sue. Now for aw, we have maw, thaw, taw, haw, raw, and saw. Now for we have met, fet, tester. We have heifer, rat, and finally set. And lastly, we have air words. So we have mare, fair, tear, hair, rare, and sare, which I don't think is a word, but we can still cue it. Now we have cue-in 2. Read the cue-in here, and then in 2 slides, we will cue it together. But I want you to try on your own first. So pause here if you need more time to cue it. Now, for lesson 6, we're going to review that cue-in 2. Then we will learn a new vowel, and we will go over flicks. I know we've talked about them a little bit with words like surfed. That little movement is a flick. But after today's lesson, we will be able to cue so many more. So, before we learn something new, let's go over the cue in number 2. So, I'll model it for you now. See steamy reefs. Who taught Sue? Her tutor, Tess, first taught her to surf here. Reefs hurt her rear feet. Rhett saw her. So I'll do it again for you. See steamy reefs. Who taught Sue? Her tutor, Tess, first taught her to surf here. Reefs hurt her rear feet. Rhett saw her. So one thing I do want you to notice is in the word tutor, that T sounds like a D. Tutor. It doesn't sound like tutor. But we still cue it as tutor. And that is because that T is an intervocalic T. And that basically means that when a T is between two vowel sounds, it softens and sounds like a D. But in reality, it isn't really a D sound or a T sound. It's more of a flap, is what we call it in phonetics, a flap. So we still cue those words as a T sound, not a D sound. So it's tutor. It's not tutor. 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 Now, to learn one more vowel placement, we have the throat placement. So this placement makes the sounds I. So, to help you remember it, you can use the phrase, look at it. And the throat placement is another place you can cue the ear sound, but I think it would be best to cue it only at the mouth. That is what I've been seeing more of lately, is at the mouth, ear, and not ear. I am currently trying to switch my cueing because I learned it at the throat as well. So I cue my ears at the throat a lot, but I am actively trying to switch that to my mouth only. So you can use the sentence, look at it here, to help you remember that here is there, but look at it is a great way to remember those vowel sounds. You can pretend you have a necklace or something here, and you're saying, look at it, to help you with those vowel sounds. So for this placement, we're going to put our finger, the longest finger, at the Adam's apple to the suprasternal notch, which is that space between your collarbones, right here. You don't want to go too high. Like, you don't want to be up, you don't want to be up there, but you also don't want to be so low. That's too low. So I cue my placement about as high as is acceptable. So I do mine right on my Adam's apple. So just so you know. The cue notation for this placement is T for throat. And I want you to look at the sounds and how they look. Uh, a, I. Is round. A is open. And I is flat. So now let's practice with that sound. So we have, and these are nonsense, but we will be able to cue way more words after the next lesson, lesson 7. So we have me, like the word in French, meuf, which is slang for woman. We have foot, because it's foot. It's not foot, with the chin vowel, it's foot. Then t, as in took, h, r, and s. Now we have mat, fat, tat, hat, rat, and sat. Those all have the ah sound that is in the word at. From our sentence, look at it. Then finally, we have mit, fit, Tim, him, rim, and sim. So now we can cue more consonant clusters. And those are when we have a few, 2 to 3, or maybe even 4 consonants next to each other that we need to cue. So we can cue fast, fast, faster, hats, master, stats, and then we can cue raft, which is a flick, or has a flick. Raft. We need to flick to show there are 2 phonemes there, 2 consonants there, without a change in hand shape. So then we have it fits, sister, sitter, simmer, hitter, hissed, and rift. Rift and raft have the same cues, including the flick. Okay, so now we've learned mouth, chin, and throat, as well as hand shape 5 and hand shape 3. So in lesson 7, we're going to learn hand shape 2. So for hand shape 2, there are 4 sounds we can cue with it. V, voiced th, v, k, v, and z. I remember this with the sentence or noun, the caves, because all the consonant sounds in that word or words are in this hand shape. The caves. So you will have your pointer finger and your middle finger together and all your other fingers tucked in. The cue notation for this is hand shape 2. So let's get right into it. And you'll see that I write voiced th, the th sound in the. I write that with a capital th. So we have the, there, their, thou, the, them, their, look. That's not a word for sure. Look. That and this. Now for the k sounds, we have key, curve, kier, cuckoo, caw, chem, care, cook, cats, and kiss. For the V sounds, we have VV, verve, veer, vu, thaw, them, very, vook, that, and vit. And then finally, we have the Z sound. Z, like the letter Z, zert, zir, zoo, zaw, zem, zer, zut, zak, and zit. So those are all the sounds we just learned with this hand shape 2. Now we can talk a little bit about minimal pairs. And basically that means two sounds that have the same place of articulation, but a different manner of articulation. And that basically means everything in our mouth is doing the same thing for both these sounds, but the voice is different. So we have f and v. Those two sounds look the exact same on the mouth because they are the same on the mouth. The only difference is our voice. With voice is v. And then the same for s and z. S with voice is z. So we have fan versus van, and sips versus zips. So you can see those words look the same on my mouth because the f and v as well as the s and z are the same place of articulation, but they have a different manner of articulation. And now we can talk a little bit about pluralization, but really it's more just words that end in S in English. So we say words that end in voiceless phonemes. So like and s from the previous slide. After voiceless phonemes, we say an S sound. So some examples are cakes, fats, and mats. Then we have Z after voiced phonemes. Moms, calves with a flick, and fams. And the reason for that change is called assimilation. So we change the ending phoneme to better match the phoneme before it, because really we're kind of lazy speakers. So, and not lazy as in bad, just we like taking the easiest route to say a word. So cake is voiceless, so we keep our voice off for the S at the end. Cakes. In mom, M is a voiced nasal sound, so we keep the S at the end, but we say it as a Z to keep our voice on because it's already on for the M sound. Mom, moms. And if you want to know if a sound is voiced or unvoiced, you can feel your throat. If your throat is vibrating during a sound, that means it is voiced. So, for cakes, say k, 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 k. Your voice or your throat isn't really vibrating in the same way it does when we say zzz. If you feel that difference, you'll be able to tell what sounds are voiced and what ones are unvoiced. So now the third way we say words that end in S in English is or us. In my dialect of English, we don't really say us. And we do this after sibilants. And that's just a fancy way of saying sounds that have a hissing quality. So, miss sounds like a hissing sound. So we say Mrs. Or bus, we say buses. Or bridge, we say bridges. So, for a fun note, Bilbo might say hobbits, but what would Gollum say? Gollum would say hobbitses. So, he doesn't follow the same rules we do in English. So now for some review before we move on to the next lesson, we have activity 4. So pause here to do that activity and then I will cue them with you. So to cue these words, we're going to cue Tim, mess, seat, tiff. That could be, number 5, could be tear or tear. Surf, awe, test, it, stir, set, sit, and hurt. hats, hat, sits, hits, F, at, her, stare, room, moose, stat, and terrorist. That's a big word we can cue now. Terrorist. Terrorist. And now we're going to do one list from Activity 5 that is focusing on handshape 2. So, you go ahead and pause and then unpause and I'll go through them with you. He, either, movie, sees, tease, easy, Eve, Kirk, further, verve, curve, and hers. Okay, so now we have cue in 3. So you go ahead and cue this. You can pause now, and then at the start of the next video, I will show you how to cue it. So I hope to see you then.